Well, hello, traders, and welcome to Simpler Trading. We're so glad that you were able to join today. My name's Melissa, and I'm a supply and demand trader here at Simpler in the Trendy Trading Room. And I'm super excited to share with you today my buy and sell zones on the major tech names, the Magnificent Seven. Four out of the seven are reporting earnings this week. And so I always want to know where the buyers are sitting and where the sellers are potentially at, right? That can give me targets both to the upside or the downside, depending on how the market reacts to the earnings report. So, if you didn't know, this is a huge week, probably one of the biggest weeks of this quarter. Not only do we have these major tech companies reporting earnings, but we also are going to hear from the FOMC today, right after my live session with you ends. That could be a catalyst in the market. So, if you're a trader, you're very aware of this particular week each quarter. All right, I don't want to waste any time. I'm going to start with Meta. Meta reports earnings today after the bell. And what I like to do is I like to start on a weekly chart and find my demand zones or my buy zones, and then find the supply zone or the sell zone. And if I do not have supply on the chart, then I use Fibonacci extensions for potential targets to the upside or downside, depending on if we're at all time highs or lows. So with Meta, here recently, the end of June, we made a new all-time high at 747.90. Since then, we have been pulling back, and Meta is actually coming into a level of support here, the 9 EMA on this weekly cloud, right before earnings are going to be reported. That's interesting to me. Now, as far as my buy zone on Meta, what I'm looking for to create these zones is I'm looking for a big candle followed by a couple of candles of consolidation that close inside the body of the initial candle, and then the big breakout candle to the upside if I'm looking for my buy zone or my demand zone. So you can see here that zone was created on this weekly chart for Meta, and that buy zone is 683.69 by 644. Now, price is currently at $700. If you are wondering what are market makers expecting as far as an earnings move, you can use the trade tab on TOS and just click on that. And right up here where you see the yellow M, that is the expected move for Meta. So they're expecting a move either to the upside or the downside of about $41. So I want to check with my buy zone and see, does that fall in from where price is at? Does that $41 fall inside of this buy zone? And you can see that it does. So a good buy zone on Meta is that 683 to 644. If Meta reports earnings and the stock drops, this is a first area I would be looking for buyers to step in. And if I wanted to buy equity shares or even options on Meta, this is the area that I would be watching for an entry. Now, in the event that Meta dumps further than the expected move, the next area of demand is back here in this gap that was created from its last earnings report. And that level is going to be 592 to 479. And I can tell you right now, as a shareholder of Meta, I would be buying additional equity if I were to get the gift of a pullback to this zone again. All right. But for now, I'm going to assume that Meta moves the expected move. And if it's to the downside, this would be the buy zone. As far as the upside goes, I do not have supply up here because price is at the all-time high. So I drew Fibonacci extension targets. Now, price is currently at $700. The all-time high, I'm just going to round up, is 748. That means a back to all-time high would be an expected move if Meta beats on earnings and the market likes the press conference and what is talked about in the earnings call. If it makes a higher than expected move, then my buy or my sell zone technically would be 786, 826, and 872 using Fibonacci extensions. I also like to just take a look at the daily chart to see if there is anything I could potentially be missing as far as a daily buy and sell zone. So for that daily chart on Meta, price is right at this demand zone that was created from this inside and up candle formation. This zone has been tested, meaning if there were buy orders waiting in this zone, there is the potential that they were picked up on this day, July 18th, as evidenced by the wick down into the demand and then the pop up. I don't know that for sure, and I'm just going to trade the levels on the chart. And that first daily buy zone would be 698 by 678, which again would give me some room to the downside of only about $22. And you saw that the expected move is 41. Well, that brings me down to this fresh demand zone on the daily chart. So I would not be as aggressive of a buyer in this zone because it's tested and it is less than the expected move, but demand is there until the zone is broken. That lower buy zone on the daily chart is 668 by 632. All right. So let's go to the next name that is reporting today, and that is Microsoft. Again, I am a shareholder of Microsoft just for transparency purposes. I like for y'all to know that before I start talking about the name. So, for Microsoft, this thing has been absolutely positively on fire for weeks. For weeks since we in the trendy room bought equity down here in this demand zone at this lower yearly edge, it has basically been straight up since April 21st. So, nothing bearish about Microsoft at all. But that doesn't mean that it could not potentially pull back here on the earnings report. So let's talk about the first areas of support before the demand zone. The first area of support on Microsoft is here at the 9 EMA on this weekly chart, and that's at about 493. From there, you have using Fibonacci's of this move, using the Fibonacci retracement tool, this is what we call the bull channel in the trendy room, the 23.6 to the 38.2. This would be the next area that I would look for buyers to step in on Microsoft. And if they don't, then my demand zone is here at 456 by 440. Now, again, I want to look at what the expected move is on Microsoft, and it's 18, I'm just going to call it $20 to do the easy math. So price is setting here at 512. If we subtract $20 from that, that's going to bring us to about 492. That would be a pullback to the 9 EMA on this weekly chart. Now let me go to a daily chart and see if I have, by chance, daily demand down near 492. It's right in here. So that pullback would bring price to this daily demand zone. Just like on Meta, this zone was tested and evidenced by the bottoming wick here that buyers stepped in. You also have the daily 21. A lot of traders will trade based off of that. But this zone was tested. It is possible that the buyers stepped in there and there are not buy orders waiting to be filled in this zone. In that event, I would be targeting 478 by 467. All right. Now, as far as upside targets go, just like with Meta, Microsoft is at or near all-time high of 518.29. So I drew Fibonacci extensions, and looking at that 20-point move, that would put me at about 532 from here. I would be targeting 525 to 536 and then even up to 550, let's call it, on Microsoft if it just has a big earnings beat. So those are my buy and sell areas for Microsoft. And then on Thursday, getting through the Mag 7 names, Amazon and Apple both report. Crazy, crazy that we have 4 out of 7 this week, but we're going to get some good price action across the board, I believe, based on these earnings reports. So let's take a look here at Amazon. Amazon's all-time high is up here at 242.52, and you see the red zone, the sell zone or the supply zone. Well, Amazon has been in this zone for 2 weeks now. All right. So this is not a fresh supply zone. It was here last week and is currently setting in supply. In the event that the earnings report drives price down, my first area of support is going to be right here at about 223 to 220. Now, the expected move on Amazon is about 11 or 12 dollars, which would, of course, put me in this area that I spoke of. So the first area of support is 223 to 218.39, and you got the 9 EMA on the weekly chart lining up with that zone. That would be a buy the dip opportunity potentially on a pullback. As far as the demand zone that I would really be targeting to the downside for Amazon, that's going to be at 210 to 200, I'm going to call it. Now, that would be a 20-point move, which would be more than the expected move, but sometimes that does happen on earnings reports, right? So, this is my target zone to, or my buy zone, or my target zone if I were looking to take a bearish trade on this earnings report. One way that you can do this to make it more cost effective is to set up a debit spread to this zone. So you could set up a put debit spread at 210 to 200 put debit spread. And if Microsoft indeed pulls back to this zone, you would be collecting profits. You can do the same thing to the upside, but with a call debit spread, and you can even play both sides. What you are thinking is that Microsoft is going, or Amazon rather, is going to move one way or the other. And the cost of the side that doesn't work is going to be more than covered by the cost of the side that does work. So that's one idea of how you can play this more cost effectively. Buying straight up calls or puts on an earnings report, typically you're going to lose so much implied volatility after the report that the value of the options, even if the price moves in your favor, the value of the options will decrease unless you have a big earnings beat and it moves way higher than the expected price. All right, so let's now look at the daily chart on Amazon and just see. Of course, we know we're in that supply zone. On the daily chart, I would be looking for a move very similar to the weekly chart, in that I would be looking at support or a buy zone down here at 222 to 217.93. Now, as far as an upside target on Amazon, the first upside target is within the expected move, and that is the all-time high, 242.52. But what if it moves higher, right? It beats the expected move. Then I'm going to use fib extensions, go up to from this demand zone up to the all-time high and double click, and that's going to give me extension targets of 250, 265, and then 280. So those would be the extension targets that I would target if Amazon is going to get a larger than expected move. Now we can't leave Apple out. Poor Apple has kind of been lagging the other Mag 7 names. Well, Apple and Tesla have. It's not at all-time highs. It definitely has supply here, and it really isn't close to all-time highs. So right now it's trading for about 210, and the all-time high is 260. $50 away from all-time high. Let's check the expected move. $8. They're not expecting a whole lot out of Apple. And I can see why. And let me explain to you why. Because I have a sell zone or a supply zone and a demand zone or a buy zone very close together. So my demand zone or my buy zone on Apple would be 202 to 193 inside of the expected move. And if we get a larger pullback than the expected move, then my buy zone is down here at 185 by 164. And I can tell you, I will be a buyer of Apple down in this zone if I get the opportunity. That is for a long term hold type of trade, though. All right. As far as the upside target goes, we're currently at 210. We're expecting an $8 move. That puts me right in this sell zone, 217 to 236. All right. All right, let's take a look at the daily chart, but I already know, as choppy as Apple has been, that you're not going to see much difference. Downside 202, 195, upside 216 to 225 on this daily chart. There is the possibility, though, that buyers step in right here around 207. So you might get a quick drop on the earnings and then see a rally back up into the sell zone there. All right. So I've covered the main four, but there's some other key players, especially in the crypto space, that's also reporting tomorrow or today and tomorrow. Let's take a look at Hood and let me give you the buy and sell levels that I'm looking at for Hood. Thanks, Jasper. I appreciate that. Hi, Mike, Chris, Mini Mom. Good to see all of y'all. Thanks for commenting in the chat. If you're on X or Facebook, sorry I'm not seeing your comments, but again, appreciate you for joining in. All right, here it is for Hood. The sorry, let me put these levels on here so I can actually read them out to you. The weekly buy zone is 73.70 by 65.38. That is a buy for me. We created that inside and up candle formation, and we had a nice strong rally out of here, creating new all-time highs at 113. I want to check the expected move. It's about $8.50. Well, this is clearly more than $8.50. So, what else am I looking at here? I am looking at this bull channel, the 23.6 and the 38.2 and the 9 EMA on this weekly cloud. So anywhere from 94 to 81, I like this zone for a potential buy the dip opportunity. This is a good buy zone if Hood doesn't tank on earnings and come all the way down to weekly demand. As far as this sell zone goes on Hood, obviously the first area of resistance is going to be that all-time high. But above there, I'm looking for 130, 135 to be the next target. Now let's take a look at the daily chart for Hood and just see. There we go. There's that demand or buy zone that I would be looking for. That is going to be within the expected move range. So somewhere down here around 101, then you have a couple of zones. First one is this inside and up candle formation. Down here at 95 to 90, we have not tested this area since price left it on this candle. So this is a fresh demand zone down here on Hood. The upper half that I have marked in green from $100 to 95, it has been tested since price left it. It was tested a couple of times actually. So those are the buy areas that I would be looking at on Hood. And again, the sell area would be you got immediate resistance at 109, but the all time high of 113 puts us right in the expected move range. And above there, I would target 130. All right. And then I don't want to leave out micro strategies, right? Everybody likes to trade this one, it seems. So let's take a look at the buy and sell zones on MSTR. They report earnings tomorrow. Okay. Wow, I got a big old target up there. I guess that would be my sell zone. 487 to 543. Immediate resistance is going to be this topping wick at 457. From there, I also need to know where the buy zone would be, right? That's going to be at about 325 to 231. Let's check the expected move on master. Wow, they're only expecting $13 move? That's crazy. All right, maybe. Okay, here is inside and up formation. So let me just mark the bottom there. That is still more than the expected move. So I'm not really sure what to say about that expected move, but I can tell you that the most immediate area of support here, besides where price is at on the 9 EMA on the weekly chart, would be 362. But this is the demand that I would be focused on. And then above there, your immediate resistance is 457, but I would target 487 to 543 on MSTR. Now, coin is also reporting tomorrow on Thursday. So let's look at the buy and sell arrows on, or arrows, the buy and sell zones on coin. Whoops. I don't know about anybody else. Anytime I type IN, my fingers just automatically go to G. Hey, Norman and Andy, good to see you. All right, for coin right here, right now, buy zone 354, 294. That is an inside and up. We created demand. We have the potential for unfulfilled orders in this area. And guess what? The mark big money, they want to get those entries. So, sometimes, price will pull back here like it's a magnet, all right? So this is the buy zone on coin 354 to 294. All right. As far as the immediate resistance, it's going to be the all time high at 444. Above there, I'm going with the psychological numbers 500, 550, 600. You know, big round numbers, they also tend to be a magnet and kind of self fulfilling prophecy as many people like to put their sell orders at big round numbers. And so I would be looking for 500 here. Now, I know that when I go to this, it's expected move of 20 to $25. I would still, I'm not going to change my tune on this on downside. I'm going right here because I just have a lot of confluence of indicators that tell me that this is a magnet area. So I would be looking at 354 there. Upside, of course, all time high by 500 on coin. Then another name that's actually reporting tonight after the bell, and that is a tech name that I like to trade, is Qualcomm. Sorry, guys. So let's take a look at the buy and sell zones on Qualcomm. Well, it doesn't look like I have the buy zone marked, so we'll mark it together. How about that? As far as upside target goes on Qualcomm, I'm looking at 171 to 182. The expected move on this name is about $8 to $10. It's currently sitting at 161. That would be within the expected move. Let's say they blow it out of the water. I'm targeting 203 to 230. As far as the buy zone goes, if I look down and I look left, I see this area of demand here. Then you have inside and up right there, right? So I'm going to use where that gap occurred, and that looks like maybe on an earnings gap there. I'm going to go back to their earnings from last quarter where price gapped up, and I'm going to say that my buy zone on Qualcomm 145 to 120. All right. And last but not least is Reddit. Reddit reports earnings tomorrow. So on Reddit, my buy and sell zones are da 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 da. Come on, Toss, you can do it. Here they are. All right. Immediate resistance 165.74. The buy zone or the demand zone 121 all the way down to $80 down here. All right. This is two zones again. 121 to 109 would be the top part of that zone, and then below there, you're looking for 94 to $80. Now, price is currently at 150. That would be a $29 move, and the expected move is probably okay, about 20 bucks. So, this would be my buy zone. Now, there is immediate support right here on the weekly cloud, and that is where we bounced from this week at 141. But if earnings drive it below the 9 EMA, then look for 125 to 110 and possibly 94 to $80. Immediate target to the upside is this upper yearly edge where we were back at the end of June, 165. The actual supply on this weekly chart, 193 to 230. So that wraps up the names that I am watching for earnings over the next 2 days. I hope that you found the content valuable. And hey, if you're not a member of Simpler Trading, you need to be. Okay. It is the absolute best community of traders. We trade live every day on the mic, our own money. Not just me, we have many great traders at Simpler. And not only that, but we have a community of traders that trade alongside of us that are in our live chat rooms every day, offering support, offering ideas. It is just a great place to be. So don't trade alone. Find yourself a community, get plugged in, and I hope you'll choose Simpler to be that community. So until next time, y'all have a great day.